Welcome to the Ministry Chick Network podcast, where we encourage, equip, and empower women of faith to lead with clarity, confidence, and purpose. I'm your host, Melissa Mashburn, the CEO, which is the Chief Encouragement Officer here at the Ministry Chick Network. Today, I am joined by my very good friend, Laura Howe. She is a registered social worker and the founder of Hope Made Strong. Laura has more than 15 years of experience in mental health and ministry care. And she is passionate, like super passionate about equipping church leaders to care for their communities without burning out. Oh, if you have ever wrestled with compassion fatigue, which you'll hear about, or you've wondered how you can sustain a care ministry, or you've wanted to better understand what the church's role is in mental health, then this conversation, it's for you. And I'm just going to say before we get started, have a pen and a paper handy. If you are not driving, if you're driving, just make sure you go back to this later because we're going to jump in now and there's going to be so much that you are going to get from today's conversation. So, welcome Laura. Thanks for being here.
Hi, it's so amazing to connect with you again. It's always like my favorite thing.
We have so much fun. Well,
We do.
for those that are meeting you for the first time, first of all, I am super excited that they get a chance to meet you. Can you share just a little bit about yourself, your family, and your heart behind Hope Made Strong?
Yeah, I would love to. So, my name is Laura Howe. And like you mentioned, I am a social worker. I feel like I'm a social worker by heart, and my head is like a project manager, but I'm a quick start and problem solver like an entrepreneur. So, if there was like
Mm,
this Venn diagram, I would say like the whatever's in the middle, whatever that piece in the middle is, that's probably who I am. I'm a mom to two young women.
wow.
So pray for me in that perimenopausal and puberty stage of life. Lord, please let
Oh, you
come.
mean pray for your husband?
No. Yes. Well, he has a garage in the shop, so he just goes there and spends a
There you
lot of
go.
time. He takes his time cutting the grass. Let's just say
There you go.
that. Yeah. So lately, I've been courtside with my daughter. She's into volleyball. So when I'm
That's fun.
not working with churches and developing care ministry strategies, I am usually cheering on uh, the Woodstock Warriors, is what they're called. So
There you go.
yeah.
That's fun. That is fun. Well, you've worked in both mental health and in the ministry space, which is really cool. You kind of bring some experience, a unique experience that not a lot of people have. So, how has that shaped your passion specifically for equipping church leaders?
Mm. Well, in the mental health space, also random fact is that I'm Canadian. So our mental health space in Canada looks really different than US, although
Mhm.
the impacts and the fallout from both of the gaps in service are
Mhm.
very, very similar. But what I noticed is in the community, people are craving community, or in our neighborhoods or in the
Yeah.
secular or healthcare world, people are really, really lonely and are desperate to connect. And in the church, we're really, really connected, but our hurt is there's
Mm.
not a lot of safe spaces to go to receive
Right.
service. So I'm like, if the church can learn from the community and if the community could learn from the church, man, what an amazing thing. And that was kind of my entry point into
Mhm.
working with churches, is recognizing that churches have a lot to learn about supporting people, and the community really needs the love of Jesus,
Mhm.
and the belonging that happens in the family, and belonging
Yeah.
that happens in local churches.
That's good. So I want to jump right in and ask you, what do you see as the church's role, their
Mm,
unique role, right? Because the church is
yeah.
different than a lot of other things. What is the church's unique role in supporting mental health?
The church is like no other organization out
Mm,
there. If you look in the community, you have clinicians, which are like your therapists and your
mhm,
psychologists and your psychiatrists, and they have absolutely a role to play. Their tool in their toolbox are often medications or talk therapy, trauma,
right.
addiction. That is their tool. Then you have all of these interest-based groups like book club or run club. My run club actually turned into a book club. I don't know what that's saying about my group of friends, but
Right. You know, we're gonna stop running and we're just gonna read a book.
yes, that we
That that
realize we're like,
that
we're not
tracks. That
runners.
tracks with me.
We're not runners. We are book readers. That's so
Yeah.
funny. But, we have all of these interest-based groups that are kind of, there's
Mm,
seasons for those,
right.
but the church is like no other where you're able to stay connected and have relationships throughout your lifetime.
Mhm,
And, it is such a unique space, and that is the secret sauce. The
yeah.
church is filled with lived experience, people who've gone through diagnosis or divorce or suffering, grief,
Mm,
family dynamics, job loss. Like, there's so
yeah,
many lived stories of lived experience, and in the church, we call them testimonies,
yeah.
that there's so much hope that can be gleaned
Mm,
from one another, and
that's
no
good.
other organization out there has that.
Mm,
Nothing. There's nothing like the body of Christ, and it's kind of like God designed it that way, which is really cool.
yeah.
And so when you're talking about what role can the church play when it comes to mental health, I would say it is peer support. It
Mm,
is it is wedged between self-care
okay.
and that self-help kind of style of things where, maybe we exercise, or maybe we read books,
Mm,
maybe we, do puzzles or into music or go for walks with
mhm,
our dog. That's all self-care, right? And then
right.
you have clinical care, which is expensive and hard to access and waitlist and oh my goodness, it's overwhelming. But
Yes.
then right there in that sweet spot in the middle is a whole community of peers who have
Mm,
wisdom and stories and hope and encouragement to share. And,
that's good.
research shares that it is the peer support or the community connections, lived experience, wisdom
Yeah.
that actually fuels recovery. Right?
Mm,
That is the
yeah.
piece, relationship piece, whether you call it rapport, relationship, peer support, that actually is like the fuel injector for the gasoline to recovery. And so
Mm.
I think that is what the church has to offer, which is a huge portion to well-being and supporting our community around mental health.
That's good. One that makes sense, the peer support, because that's why groups like AA and Celebrate Recovery
Right?
and all of these, all of them are why they are successful is you have that peer support of somebody that has walked that road and can walk alongside you. You throw in the fact that now that there's the faith-based element, the Christian belief, if you're walking in the church and now you've got somebody that's walked through that
Yeah.
traumatic experience, like
Yeah.
those lived experiences are things that are
Yeah.
transferable to share, right? Like
Yeah.
comfort one another as you have been comforted. So,
Mm.
okay.
Yeah, and for years we've been told to minimize, to hide, to
Mhm.
show up as your best dress, to
Yeah.
God is good all the time, God good. That is factually right, but
Yes.
where can I talk about when things really stink and are
Yeah.
really hard, right? And our biggest strength was suppressed and muted and hid. But if we
Mm.
can show up with our suffering and our stories and our testimony, that is the church being the church, in my opinion.
Mm, that's
Mhm.
good, and you're absolutely right. I think I'm trying to figure out if that's a geographical, if it's denominational, or if it's a generational type thing
Mhm.
that I do remember. Like show it, you have to show up and put on your best face,
Yes. Oh
and
my
I used to
goodness.
call it Patty Perfect pastor's wife,
Oh,
right?
I love that.
So as a pastor's wife,
Oh gosh.
I felt this pressure to have this facade that everything was perfect and great and nothing was wrong and nothing, I've got great kids and I've got this and
Yeah.
that and the other. And it's exhausting and it's just not real. And there were a lot of people that missed out on getting to know the real me because I didn't feel safe enough to share. And that actually
Yeah.
leads me to a totally different question than what we were talking about. But you talked about if you're not feeling safe, a lot of the women that are going to be listening to this are women in the ministry space, right? Because we know about
Mhm.
compassion fatigue and all of that. But you and I were even talking online or offline before we started recording about there are some things that you can't talk about with everybody.
Yeah.
And I know as a woman in ministry, it's not easy to always find a safe space. So how how important when the church is dealing with all of this mental health, how much more important is it for the church leaders I'm calling all of us leaders because
Yes,
we
absolutely.
are all called, right? So we're all
Mhm.
doing the work of the body of Christ. How much more important it is for us as we're caring for other people to
Mhm.
go, I need to do this for me because now we're picking up other people's stuff. We're carrying their burdens. We're praying with
Yeah, yeah.
them, weddings, funerals, and everything in between,
All in the same
divorces
day.
and right, all in the same day. Right. You could be doing all of these things.
Yes,
And
it's wild.
from experience, there's a little bit of an emotional whiplash that comes along with
100%.
those type of things. And then because you're the leader, there's a little bit of the expectation that you're going to carry it. So the next thing you know, you've got this backpack of other people's stuff
Yeah.
that you're carrying. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, my gosh, and I think that is unrealistic expectation is that leaders carry around a backpack. And I think self-care, refueling, and restoring, however that looks like to you, some people are able to refuel and restore in one way and some people another. And so that
Yeah.
restorative, refueling opportunity is actually unloading the backpack and taking
Uh,
things out of the backpack so that you are not carrying it and it's not compounding over time. And that
yeah.
really is the antidote to burnout or antidote to compassion fatigue is unloading the backpack. And you're running at such a clip. You're running so fast forward because the demands are endless and there's no time to unload the backpack.
No.
And so it's one of those things that we forget to do because we're just facing forward, but when that
Yeah.
backpack becomes so unbearably heavy,
Mhm.
that's when we get tripped up and we struggle.
Yeah. It becomes crushing, right?
100%.
There just reaches a point where you just can't do it anymore. So
Mhm.
that kind of leads me to that's there's we talk a lot of people know about burnout. But
Yeah,
you've talked about and made me aware of something called compassion fatigue. And I'd love to kind of dig in this. So, burnout, a lot of people know about burnout and compassion fatigue are real struggles. What are some of the warning signs leaders should watch for in themselves?
so what is compassion fatigue and how does it differ from burnout?
Yeah.
Okay.
And what
So
are the warning signs? How do you even know? Because we think we understand burnout and we're like, oh, we don't want to do that. But we may not even know that we're already on the way to it.
yeah. Well, compassion fatigue and burnout are 2 different things can happen simultaneously. They're not
Okay.
it's not on a continuum where burnout is the lesser of compassion fatigue.
Okay.
They're 2 different things. So compassion fatigue or burnout, I should say, anyone and everyone can experience compassion fatigue. Kids, seniors,
Okay.
ministry leaders, teachers, anyone. If you're a human, you can experience burnout, and it is hopelessness, helplessness, and prolonged stress. So,
Mm.
hopelessness is that feeling like nothing is going to change, it's going to be like this forever. Often, what my 15-year-old feels about rules. It's mom, it's gonna be like this forever. No,
Yes.
it's not. But okay, in your world it is. It's that
Yeah.
feeling. Whether it's true or not is not relevant. It's
That's
just the
good.
feeling it's gonna be like this forever. Helplessness is not having control or impact or say or autonomy to be able to change or influence your experience. So if you
Okay.
have you can't adjust your working hours, if you can't choose which day you have on or off, or you can't you're given a project and you can't be a part of planning that project. It's this being told to do something without having any input in how
Mhm.
it's done, the timeline, and all of those things.
Yeah.
It's helplessness. You feel helpless
Ugh.
to that.
Okay.
And then prolonged stress is the tension, whether that's financial or relational or time, or maybe it's your even like your physical stressors on your
Yeah.
body if you're like, working outside. So if you have prolonged stress, helplessness, and hopelessness, you're going to experience the symptoms of burnout. And these
Okay.
are just like struggling with apathy and all of these things. And so this is why we see it in kids and seniors. It doesn't matter, everyone can experience these feelings.
Okay.
And to relieve the symptoms of burnout or these feelings of burnout, you need to relieve one of those three things. You need to either
Okay.
have agency in what you do, or you need to know that there's a time limit, like I have vacation coming up and so I know this isn't going to last forever, or you need to be paid well for what you do.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And
Like it
everybody listening said, "Amen."
yeah, exactly, right? You can endure a lot of things if you're paid well, let me tell you,
Yes.
right? And yeah, burnout would disappear, right? So that's an example of how well, maybe not disappear, but
Right.
lower its impact, right?
Maybe it's a little bit more tolerable.
Tolerable, exactly. So it's kind of a recipe. It's burnout's
Okay.
those 3 things. But
Okay.
compassion fatigue is a side effect of caregiving. So if you are a caregiver, and most women leaders are
Okay.
caregivers, and caregiving can look different. Caregiving isn't just nursing or therapy or teachers. Caregiving
Okay.
can be many things. There was example when I was doing my certifications of receptionists at vet clinics. They're often the caregivers of people who are losing their family
Mhm.
pets, right? Like it
Okay.
extends to anyone, and ministry leaders 100% would
Right.
be considered caregivers because you are around suffering and problems all the time. You're
Yeah.
exposed to these things. And so that exposure has
Mm.
impacts. Like think of going to a campfire and you don't want to smell like smoke. You don't want to have your eyes burn or your clothes stink. And so you avoid it. But no matter how hard you try, you get in your car and you're like, oh, I reek. I knew I shouldn't have showered today and should have waited till
Right.
tomorrow.
You're like, "I smell like smoke.
My-
My hair smells like smoke. Now my car smells like it."
Yeah, exactly, because
Yeah.
it transfers. And that is the same thing around trauma and suffering. It
Mm.
transfers. So no matter how hard you try to avoid getting absorbed into other people's problems and life, if you are
Mm.
near it, you're going to be impacted by it. It's going to impact how
Wow.
you see the world. It's going to weigh on you like that backpack. And so
Okay.
compassion fatigue is just the side effect of caregiving. It's a workplace hazard of
Mhm.
caregiving, right? It's the risk that you take by being a caregiver. But that doesn't mean you always have to be fatigued. You don't have to live in that. You don't have to feel hopeless. There is a way to
Okay.
prevent that fatigue, and that is the refueling and restoring. That is the
Mm.
unpacking the backpack. That's tending to your own needs, because just because your own needs may not feel as urgent as
Yeah.
those around you, God still has compassion and grace and love and empathy and like joy for you. It's not a sum
Right.
zero game. It's not like someone needs it more so you don't get any. No, you
Right.
get some too, friend.
Right.
You deserve it. You are a child of God just like them. And so you are
Mhm.
able to tend to your needs. And I say basic needs because we think of them like eating and sleeping and
Yeah.
connecting and play.
Yeah.
Those are the needs that we have as human beings, as God's creation. And
Yeah.
so we need to tend to those. If we do not tend to those as we are in a caregiving role, we are going to become fatigued.
Mm. Okay.
Sorry,
So
that was a mouthful.
no, but that was really good because you kinda led me into the next question, which are what are some practical rhythms and strategies that leaders can build in to stay healthy and resilient while serving others? Because we really just don't want people coming into the ministry space and then they only have a 3-year shelf life because it's exhausting and it's overwhelming and I mean, it is,
Mhm.
but I hear you saying it is sustainable if you are proactive and you create these rhythms and strategies and awareness. It reminds me of like the whole put on your oxygen mask before you take
Yes,
care of
exactly.
others thing, right? And as you were talking about even some of the other things, I'm like, well, first responders, they still eat, they still sleep, they still, they may be in the middle of the thick of something traumatic, but then they come back and they clean up their gear and they do all the things. So,
Yeah.
practical rhythms and strategies for leaders.
Yes, and I am hesitant to talk about this without mentioning something. Oftentimes we talk about self-care and putting on our own mask first, and I feel a little resentful about talking about that because it feels like blaming the victim. So you're saying that I have compassion fatigue because I'm not doing enough for myself? It feels kind of like that. Okay, then
Mm,
you're just blaming me for not
mm,
doing something and
okay,
now I'm hurting. Like, I want to recognize this is a both and conversation. There are things
good,
that you can do to help care and tend to your own needs.
good.
But we also, as leaders, need to call out the systems in which we exist in and
Mm,
recognize that the culture of ministry is perpetuating compassion fatigue and is
mm,
perpetuating burnout. And so I am not placing all of the responsibility to prevent compassion fatigue on you as the individual.
right,
That is not right. That is not just.
right.
There is definitely, I want to acknowledge that the system that we live in,
That's
work
good.
in, serve in is perpetuating these things, right?
Yeah.
And so while we try to work on this system and people like you, Melissa, and Katie, and all of these other people are working hard to try to change the culture and system. But while it's in transition, there are things that we can do to help sustain ourselves.
Mhm.
And it is definitely, let's start off where the ground is soft. Let's start with something that is easy for you. So, while I'm
Okay.
gonna have some suggestions, do not feel like you have to do them all, or do not feel like they're in order. Start where it's
Okay.
easy. Quick wins, right? We are
Yep.
exhausted, busy people. I do not try to do all of these things.
This is not a list of things that you need to add to the list of
No.
things that you have to do today. This is
Oh, Lord, no. No, 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 no. But really, just think about it as like taking the temperature. And that is just
okay.
fun. Just take your temperature every day. Are you good to go? Green, you're feeling good. Are you yellow where you had a crappy day and you just need some quiet time? Like
Yeah.
I just need to go
Yeah.
walk my dog in the woods today? Or
Mhm.
are you in the orange or maybe red levels where maybe the impact is seeping into other areas of your life and it's starting to impact your other relationships or maybe your health or your hobbies. And so by taking the temperature, it just gives you an opportunity to reflect and recognize what it is.
Mm.
It is what it is. You know what I mean? You've had a terrible day. Okay. Well, it is a terrible, terrible day. Or today was a really good day. Great.
Mm.
Today is a really good day. Just acknowledging is
Yeah.
validating your experience and validating what you are facing, right?
Right.
And that
Yeah.
could be helpful because then it sets boundaries for what you're going to do next or how you're going to engage. And taking the temperature, you can do that on your commute to and from places like when you're going to work or going to church or going to a meeting. Um, you can have the music on and listen to podcasts and all of that. But when you are coming home, quiet and reflection,
Okay.
decompress. That is definitely a
Okay.
recommend. When you're going somewhere, amp it up. But when you're coming home or coming away,
That's good.
keep it quiet and just recognize how you're feeling. Am I tense? Am I anxious? Am I worried? Am I excited? I'm
Yeah.
hopeful, like all of those things. Yeah. Yeah. So take your temperature. Mhm.
I love that. I love that. Love that.
Yeah.
Because well, I think that's actually something that's good. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter where you live. That's something every one of us can do and might even create um, some language to be able to talk
Yeah.
to each other. Hey, just so you know, I'm kind of yellow today or I'm orange and I don't really know why. I'm going to need some time.
Yes.
Eh, You're giving feelings, right? You're expressing without going into a lot of detail but you're also acknowledging that.
Mhm. Mhm.
I love
Yeah,
that.
language is really, really hard. It's complicated.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to put words to feelings. So let's just pick
Mhm.
colors. Let's just pick colors. It's much easier. And then the other one, there's so many. We have 7 keys to resilience. We're not, 7 is too many, but I have a podcast on it and there's other blogs and other things.
She's got tons of great resources, so we will make sure to link all of that. in the show
But
notes.
yeah, but another thing is we often forget is to have fun. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Everything that we do needs to have a purpose and accomplish a check on our list, and I
Mhm.
love a good list. Man, I put
Same.
I put
Same.
things on my list just so I can check them off immediately,
I
right?
feel like
Like,
that's right. There's nothing wrong with that.
yes, of course. Make a list. Check. Yes. Um but not everything. We're not machines. We are
Right.
human beings and we are creative, even though creativity to me is a paint by number, not like free painting. No, thank you.
Gotcha.
Um, but
Noted.
we're creative. We
Yeah.
are, and so just what brings you joy that's not
Mhm.
connected to a task, and if it's hard, I think I was Annie I think I heard her say, in her book, like, what did you do when you were 8 years old? And do that. Like, was it riding bikes?
Yes.
Was it building forts? Was it doing Lego? I was working with a pastor one time and they're like, I used to redecorate my dollhouse. And I was like, "Oh, do that. Do you have one? Go to the like Goodwill." And she's like, I have one
Yes.
in my attic. And so she brought her dollhouse out and she would do that on Sundays
Oh my
is go
goodness.
get scrapbooking paper and like, cause we all did that in the 90s or in the early 2000s. And like, she decorated her dollhouse and she goes, it felt at first like a waste of time,
Yeah.
and then I started looking forward to it and started thinking about and, like, getting excited about it after a couple, you know, weeks of doing it. So, having fun is something we
Yeah.
forget, but it is definitely like, a refueling. Mhm.
Yeah, that's so good. That's why, all of those coloring books for adults
Yeah,
took off
right?
a few years ago, and I was like,
Exactly.
"I don't know about you, but I like the smell of crayons." So I was like, "This is super fun," and I did all kinds of stuff, and then I was like, "Well, now it's really important to me to stay in the lines and do all this," and I feel like that just kinda took the fun out of it, so, um, I have a lot of coloring books if anybody needs needs Okay, so let me ask you this. I want to circle back to something
'Kay.
that we didn't talk about, because we were talking about the backpack and talking about how
Mhm.
heavy and the importance of church and the unique role that they have. Why is it so important for pastors and ministry leaders to understand that care, this is a big word, right? The big care
Yeah.
is more than just quote unquote helping people in crisis.
Yeah. One of the very first lesson we do in the care ministry cohort, which is our 5-month mastermind, is what is care? Because
Yeah.
when you said the big umbrella care, that is a new concept for many people. Number one, I don't think care wasn't used too often in
Mhm.
churches until, about 5 years ago. Um, but care for some is helping those inside your church, and care for others is helping those outside your church.
Yeah.
And, people come with all kinds of assumptions of what care is.
Mhm.
And so I care cannot be a cookie cutter ministry. It can't be,
Agreed.
oh, do these 3 small groups and teach these 3 Bible studies and check, you have a care ministry. You have a meal train, great, check, care is done. But care is actually a culture. Care is how
Yes.
we engage with one another. It's belonging,
Oh.
it's purpose, and it's hope. It's all of these cultural elements in a church.
Mm.
And and I actually forget your question, which is really funny.
No, but that's good.
Okay.
It was
I was like, "Wait a minute,
why
what
is
is"
it I mean, why is it so important for pastors and ministry leaders to understand that care is bigger than just helping people in crisis?
Oh, yeah, yeah, and that's
So,
and that's it. It's the church's calling is to show up for people. And so if you think care is just helping someone, giving gift cards out and
yeah.
helping people while they're in the hospital, then you're missing the richness of, I think, what the
Mhm.
gospel is and what is connection and what is
Yeah.
community, and you're just checking a box off a list. I am going to say the majority of pastors that I connect with, and that might be skewed because they're connecting with me, um, want to care. They
Yeah.
want to be known as a church that loves and cares for people. Like,
That's
most people want that. But
yeah.
it's how do you do that? How do you care for the unique needs of your congregation and community when you have such little capacity? You have
Uh-huh.
no budget, no time, no
Right.
people, and oftentimes no space. So how can you do this well? And we do
Mm,
not have time for this, but you can do it well. And it is just I to me, care and discipleship are two different trains going in parallel direction. Care and
I agree.
discipleship are like parallel to each other.
Mm, that's so good. I can't wait. We're definitely gonna have to circle back another time because I'd love to hear some more stories about that. But just a quick, what encouraging stories have you heard from churches? Because, and we didn't even talk about this. Not only do you do all the other things that you do and Hope Made Strong and the podcast and the cohorts, and you've got some new things coming up in 2026. They're super exciting. You also do the church mental health summit.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you the people listening have heard of that. This is the girl right here, and her team. I know she's not a
Yes.
one-woman show,
No. No way.
at all. None of us are. None of us are.
Mhm.
But that came out of you seeing something, and doing something about it. Just a
Mhm.
quick segue, like, how did that happen, and what do you see and hope comes from that?
Mm. Yeah, so the Church Mental Health Summit came seeing the landscape of church and hearing several stories of how churches responded when some leaders were really suffering with their mental health and actually ended up dying by suicide.
Yeah,
And then the response people had to leaders who were suffering was like, they're shocked. Meanwhile,
yeah,
oh my gosh, Michelle, Melissa, we could talk for hours on this. So, meanwhile, I'm going through my own burnout, compassion fatigue.
right.
I'm in a dark space experiencing all of those things. I'm like, "Oh, I know exactly how this happened." All of these pastors,
Mhm.
available 24 hours a day and
Right,
carrying this heavy load and all of this
right.
stuff. And so I recognize how little the church understood what caregiving is all about and the impacts on and the role of the church could be in supporting mental health. And so the Church Mental Health Summit is an annual event on October 10th, which is World Mental Health Day, where we gather a whole bunch of thought leaders from all over the world
Yeah,
and share pre-recorded talks. And from that, we have close to an average over the past 3 years has been about 10,000 registrations
wow,
across 125 different countries. And so
that's amazing.
the hunger for information on what can we do around this crisis of mental health and how can the
Yeah,
church show up is a major question that a lot of people have been asking. And
mm,
this past year in 2025 was our 6th year. We started in 2020 where everyone was at home in going through it
in
on the
it,
struggle.
yep,
We were in it
deep,
on the
deep in
struggle
it.
bus. Yeah, we were on the struggle bus going,
We're on the
now
struggle bus, and there was a dumpster fire around us, and it was just all kinds of, like, gifts that we will
gnarly.
never, ever forget.
Never, never. We will tell our great-grandchildren some days these
Yes.
crazy stories of washing our groceries. Anyway, um sorry.
Yes.
Um, but that's what people were experiencing. And
Mhm.
anyway, from that, being that our 6th year, I got an email from a pastor in Australia. So literally, I'm in Canada, like northern hemisphere down to the exact farthest spot
Yeah,
possible of a church that has not engaged in our cohort, has just engaged in the summit and the podcast. So like they were those people that I didn't really know too well
right.
at all. And they said, "Hey, I just want to say thank you so much." A woman came to our church, came to me at my church and said, I've been struggling with addiction for a really long time, and
Mm,
I turned my back on God, and I've always wanted to reengage with the church, but I just never felt safe.
mm,
But your church, I feel safe. And the
wow,
pastor reached out and said, "Thank you for helping us because we would have never been able to shift our culture to welcome, to
wow,
engage people who are struggling, unless, without your help. So really thank you for that." And
that's
so
amazing.
obviously I bawled my eyes out and and I was
Yes.
just like, "How Lord, you are good." And I would have that is the most crazy thing that this woman was impacted because she went to the church because these people listened to a podcast and they're shifting their church's culture to be
Yeah,
focused on care and community. And I was just
it's
like,
amazing.
man, so things are happening. God is moving. God is at work
Mhm.
around the world. People are hungry for
Yeah,
this, and I think we're going to see some mighty, mighty, and amazing things. All
yeah.
of you people who have been struggling and suffering and working hard and being faithful and diligent, thank you. Your prayers and your work are not going unanswered. We are
Mm,
starting to see this now. So there is
that's
hope.
amazing.
There's hope.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so we know statistically speaking, there are more likely than not women that are going to be listening to this that are struggling with their own stuff, right?
For real.
They work at the church, they've got kids, they don't have kids, they're married, they're not married. Whatever the boxes are on the form, right? But they're sitting here going, I care for other people all day long, but I got my own
Yeah.
stuff that I'm dealing with. What is one small practical step the listener can take this week to strengthen her own care rhythms?
Plan a date. I'm just making this up. I'm just pulling it. Like, I would say debrief and go on your commute, take a temperature check.
Yeah.
Listen to have fun. Those are the 2 that we talked about earlier. And
Mhm.
then the other one is connect with someone.
Yeah.
Um, Connect. I don't care who it is. It could be your sister, it could be your spouse, it could be your friend, it could be a mentor, a counselor, coach. I don't care who you connect with, but connect with
Yeah.
a real person
Yeah.
and take some bricks out of that backpack together.
Mm, that's so good. That's so good. Thank you for that. And for sure, please reach out. Don't You're not alone. That's why the
Mhm.
Ministry Chick Network exists. That's
Yes.
why Hope Made Strong exists. That's why the church mental that's we are here because we don't want you to do this alone. So,
Mhm.
Laura, what is the best place for people to connect with you?
Yeah, hopeMadeStrong.org is where everything is at. And then we're on Instagram, hope_made_strong. Every time I say that, I roll my eyes because I wish I could redo my that name, but here we are. Just
Eh,
search Hope Made Strong on Instagram and we'll
yeah.
find
Yeah, and a lot of times if you're on the Ministry Chick Network socials, we share a lot of the
Thank
content because
you.
her content is
Oh,
gold. So
sorry.
make sure you check it out. Yeah, I love you, friend. Hey, thanks for listening today. I hope that you were encouraged by our conversation with Laura. One thing, actually, not one thing, there were several things. But one thing that really stood out to me, a couple things, not only the take your temperature, but something as a woman in ministry, as a pastor's wife, and as a pastor was care is a cultural element of your church. That's something we should chew on a little bit, especially in church leadership. And I just was really encouraged by that and really gonna chew on that one myself a little bit. But if you want to connect with Laura or learn more about Hope Made Strong or the Church Mental Health Summit, visit hopemadestrong.org and you will definitely find all the links in the show notes. Hey, and if today's episode stirred something in you, I want to invite you to download our free 5-day clarity journal. It's designed to help you realign with God's purpose and find clarity in your next step. Listen, friend, remember, you don't have to lead alone. That's why the Ministry Chick Network exists. That's why Hope Made Strong exists. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for the impact that you're making. But more importantly, thank you for showing up and doing the work that God's called you to do. I will see you next time. Thanks for joining us on the Ministry Chick Network podcast.